Absolutely embarrassing. Okay. Sharing. Do. Oh. Okay. Sorry about that, Louis.
That's all right.
Okay, so return. I don't even remember what I asked now. I was in a frantic state. Um, let's go back to what we were talking about, which was, some of the challenges of running a business, of being a startup, and sort of the validation methodologies. Um, in terms of a young person who's thinking about running a startup or
Yeah,
becoming part
yeah.
of the startup scene, what do you suggest that they do? What's the first step that they should take?
I think, look, some of the first steps you can take, especially in the startup scene, and if I could speak to my younger self here, provide myself some serious advice, it's to get amongst the get amongst your local startup scene. Go to your local, um, co-working space, and in Sydney, especially. Look, there's it started originally. It was a very if you're based around the city or the eastern suburbs, it was always quite um, efficient. You always really had access, and by always I mean the last 5 years, let's use a scale of relevance here. But yeah, moving forward, it's awesome to see how the scene's grown out through Sydney, and
Yeah.
actually how we there's such a startup presence actually in Western Sydney. And
Yep.
there's an awesome shout out to my friend's awesome co-working space. So he just opened up his new space, and that's called Grounded Space, and that's in Parramatta. You should definitely check it out. They host, and by getting amongst it, they host, I believe, weekly nighttime sessions, and these meetups are typically hosted by a startup or by a local business. And
Yep.
it's an awesome mixing spot. It's awesome to get amongst it and actually see how people operate in real startups. Yeah, definitely put. There's no better practice and execution by actually just doing it. You have to get out of your comfort zone definitely,
Yep.
and just really get stuck in. So visit your local co-working space, jump on Meetup. It's an awesome app that you can find uh, events going on around you all the time in the startup space, especially. You can attend those mostly. Most of the time they're free of charge. Sometimes they have a small cover charge, but yeah, it shouldn't really put any strain on you if that's what you want to do. And I definitely think you should get out there and start networking and start telling people your grand ideas and see how people respond to them.
What do you say about people who are fearful that, hey, I'm going to go to these events, someone's going to steal my idea and just run with it, and then I'll have no idea and I'll be worse than when I started.
So what we've seen in the industry, and that comes back to the ethos of, it comes back to the ethos of how how little weight ideas carry or perceive to carry anymore, and that's because people have wised up to the execution of the idea. So look, I quite actually freely speak about the inner workings of our application, of course, to an extent. Don't go to release all my IP, but definitely speak about it to actually, to actually have effect and actually gauge out real reactions. So going back to your question, should you release your idea and should you speak about your idea and why should you not? I believe, you know, talking openly about your idea is fine. Of course, got to withhold some secrets, and especially trade secrets that maybe make your idea competitive or better than what's there, or why your idea is so ingenious. But please don't go in and speak to people and pull out non-disclosure agreements that'll get you kicked out of meetings and that'll get you on blacklists as quick as it can, because it shows. Look, there's a certain degree of maturity you have to show when you're in the startup space. You have to realize that you are in the real world. You're interacting with real customers. You're interacting with real investors, and these people's times are as valuable as yours. So, and that's some respect that's starting to really come into play that we see is that it's all fun and games in your mind and if you're chasing an idea, but everybody else is their most important person. So that's something you have to cater to as well.
And do you think that going forward we're going to see an increase in startups, more people grabbing the bull by the horns and taking on, saying, I don't want to be part of the traditional workforce. I don't want to work for someone else. I want to have a go at doing my own business and doing my own thing.
Yeah, of course. And look, I think we're seeing that stem actually out in Sydney through gig work, and we're seeing it stem actually globally through this new gig working economy. Um, and there's of course pros and cons of every kind of work structure, but yeah, it's really starting to show that people some people, and this again, this is will work for some people, will not work for some people else. But even having the ability to run these micro sources of, or multiple sources of income concurrently,
Yeah.
By having the ability to run the businesses. So, look, small to medium businesses still make up 95% of businesses worldwide. So that shows you the actual volume and depth of where small to medium enterprises are. A small to medium enterprise could be a one-man shop, and it can be, it could be 15 people. So it's quite fluid in its definition. But I believe that people are really taking on, especially in Australia, what I say a lot is people are taking on that entrepreneurial spirit. And the misconception is that you need to have a tech-based startup, or you need to be technology focused. I think it's more about the broader and more holistic business dealings you need to complete, and the right people you need to bring on board to actually grow something and actually make something of an idea.
Yeah. And with the people that you think that you need, when you start off any business, you're everything. You're the CEO, the marketing manager, you're the coffee boy, you're the what do you say about people who are looking? What would you look for in a partner to work with in a startup? I mean, should startup people have partners? Should they bring on partners straight away? What do you think that? What's your attitude to that?
Look, I'm all for the partner system. I've started startups with partners. It works great, but you just need to make sure that you're aligned with the partner from the beginning in terms of the faith and the idea, the kind of, I guess, commitment towards the commitment coming in from both parties has to be solid. So I've seen a lot of partnerships break down. I've experienced similar things through my own avenues. I've seen it firsthand, and it's not pretty. It doesn't help the startup, but in reverse, if you do partner with the right person, that can propel the business forward. You need to. It helps with the persistent factor, the factor of persistence I spoke about before. So, it definitely anything surrounding yourself with the right people, with the right vision, is going to do you really a lot of good.
Looking into your crystal ball and looking into the future, what do you think the future holds for Bundy and some of the other projects you're working on?
Look, we're starting to kind of edge towards what we call critical mass, and critical mass is once it all kind of starts to align in the business, and we actually start to get the right, can start getting real revenue and forecasting revenue, because like you mentioned before, software as a startup is a bit of a pig. I can't just spin up a Facebook page and people are looking at it. Yeah, it's great for vanity, but it doesn't really pay my bills. So I see the future. I see Bundy growing in the next 5 years into a seriously recognised player in the workforce management industry. I see I've got another software startup, and I really love cars. I'm a car fanatic. So I really wanted to do something in that space. So I've created. Right now, it's just a really easy way to book your favorite rare, luxury, exotic electric vehicle. So really the high end kind of the market, and I've created that, and that's called Motomo, and we're starting to really kick that off as well. And right now, it's very similar to an Airbnb model for luxury vehicle rental. So we're disrupting that industry a little bit.
Cool. And with the growth of these startups and the need to understand, what technical skills would you encourage everyone? I mean, you've described very, very well the personal attributes and the character that I think you need to be a good startup entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What about technical skills? What technical skills would you urge every young entrepreneur to learn to be able to excel at startups?
I would say, you need to have a couple of solid skills in your tool set. You need to really refine some of your skills, and your core skills are being able to create or work on marketing. Actually, I think it's the back, way too focused in. I think what is essential for and this is my opinion, I believe that a great startup founder should know how to delegate work, should know how to defer, and really get rid of a lot of the work that traditionally makes people busy. So your time management skills and the way you actually attack certain things, and understand that 20% of your core input is going to produce 80% of the output. Understanding that and finding that 20% and knuckling down on it is the most important thing. So, a step aside from actually having technical skills and a skill set that you would use to implement. I think as a startup leader, it's it's often forgotten that the role itself is really, in essence, a management role.
Yep.
You are managing people. You are getting the right people on to execute this idea or this business that you're trying to run. And I think having that level of abstraction where you can have your hands in the code, but at the same time you can come out and get the right people on for the right job, that's the most important skill to have. You need to knuckle down on that. I've seen so many brilliant startups and startup founders try to just put it all on their back, go forward, and, they can do it, but they're not the right person for that job. They try to be, the Swiss Army knife, the jack of all trades, and then they slowly become the master of none. Yeah.
And I guess we'll finish on this note. Is it worth it? Do you think that for the right person, this is the right journey? Do you think that, if you had your time again, would you do it again?
Yeah, I'd do it 10 times. Look, it's deep seated. It's deep seated. I feel like it's always been in my trajectory, and life's funny how it kind of can play with your mind and make you feel like that. Like this was your trajectory, and
yep.
You almost see into the future, like we were talking about before. So, just following on, I think I definitely think I'd do it again. I'd definitely encourage people to give it a crack. Look, especially if you're younger and you don't have too many commitments. Yeah, it's awesome. You can do it and pretty low risk. Even if you're older and you have children and you have more commitments, it's still something great to do on the side. Definitely, and this notion of giving up everything and doing a startup, that's something I wanted to open up before. But that in itself is, another story. But
what do you? Well, no, we got time. What do you say about that? Which I wake up one day and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be a teacher anymore. Yeah. I want to go and open this business.
Yeah. So there's two angles we look at. We crucially look at it through two angles. And I'll use a quick statement to get it across the line. So if you want to take the island, burn your boat.
Yeah.
So that approach is pretty much the typical cookie cutter startup. You see, I had a great job, blah, 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 and I've given up everything and I'm going all in. And I feel that the market itself and just the world in general in startups, people are moving away from that model because it does cause that high burnout. You should definitely focus on what you love. But if you have the opportunity to bootstrap and if you have the opportunity to remain comfortable during this time, you definitely should explore that option. Yeah. You shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself at the beginning because we've got so many tools at our disposal now to actually test ideas and make sure that just to better inform our decisions in business.
And is there any rituals that sort of charge you up? What's the one ritual? What's the one thing from your concept that has empowered you the most? And we'll almost end it on that note.
Yeah. Look, I think the takeaway being to an extent it's the recognition that you're going to receive but it's actually creating something that wasn't there before. And having that on a global scale, I think that keeps driving you forward.
Absolutely. Everybody, this has been episode 4 of Concepts with Galanta. We were very lucky to have Louis Helu, who is a startup founder and superstar. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, John.
Bye, guys. Have a great Saturday.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Bye-bye.